Fellas, week 8 in the books. The playoff push is on. The last place punishment avoidment push is on. Uh, Pretty fun week across the league. Chris Derrick with an absolute banger coming down to the very last play on Monday night. We'll get into it. First, our predictions from last week, 2 and 3. We're sitting at 2020 on the year. Not where we want to be. We want to be well above 500. Ben, Sam, got your games right. Steele, Chase, got your games right. Everyone else got your games wrong. Ford, you absolutely pooped the bed. You had a great chance to take down Najee Nation, pooped it. Derek, what a gritty win that was. And then Caleb, winner of the week. Hadn't won a game through 6 weeks. He's won his last 2. Winner of the week this week. Excited to see what he has to say. I don't have the video yet, but I'm assuming I will. I will have it by the time I post this. But excited to see what he has to say. We will hear from Ford as well, who is very, very, he's familiar with these by now. He's been here quite a bit throughout the season. But before we do that, let's get into the standings. Standings. It's an interesting layout we have here. I'll say I'm not going to say it's even, but it is interesting. We have a bunch of people battling for different things. I think. 2 and 6. We have 3 2 and 6 teams. You guys are all fighting technically still to make the playoffs. You guys are not dead yet. Obviously, want to avoid that last place. We have 1 3 and 5 team with Chase. We have 2 4 and 4 teams. Me and Derek. We have 1 4 3 and 1 team with Ben. 1 5 2 and 1 team with Gilliam, and then Najee Nation somehow sitting at 6 and 2, and Steele at 7 and 1. I don't think anyone's going to catch Steele. I think he's probably locked up. Obviously, I say locked up. We're a few weeks out, but he's going to have to drop 2 games in order to get out of it because he has the point differential. The next highest person is Ben he's 170 points behind. So Steele would have to drop two games in order to be knocked out of that first place spot, which I think is going to be difficult for sure. But we're still very much alive. The playoff picture has not been set yet. The last place picture has not been set yet. So it's a fun time to be in the league. But let's get into these matchups. Let's get into these recaps, shall we? Matchup 1, we had Benny D taking down Sam, who I believe was 2 and 0 in his last 2. Not 100% sure. But this was not close. Not close at all. 43-point victory. Sam with the worst start of the year with the Bengals defense. The Bengals defense is atrocious. I know they were a popular pick for a lot of fantasy analysts out there, but negative 9 points is the most amount of negative points that anyone's ever had across our league in its history, which is tough. So you have your defense kicker and your second flex combining for 1.1 points. It's going to be difficult for you to get a win for sure. Brashard Smith only with 0.8 after his garbage time points last week. Sam was chasing that high, couldn't get it done. Rashee Rice looked great. Dalton Schultz did not look good. He probably shouldn't have traded me Tyler Warren, but I guess he thought Brock Bowers was going to be back sooner than he was, even though he was on bye this week. Tat looked good with 16. Jordan Love looked great with 28. CMC disappointed only with 9 points. He was projected for 21. The 49ers as a whole were not on the field at all for the entire game. It was just their defense looked really bad. They couldn't stop anything the Texans were doing, and then the Texans defense would come on and get a stop basically immediately. So that was some tough sledding for Sam. 105 points. Frankly, lucky he didn't have to make a loser of the week video this week with Ford being his saving grace, scoring 84 points. Ben's side of the matchup loses Scadaboo for the year. First and foremost, that is a humongous bummer. Scadaboo's been a lot of fun to watch. I think everyone's pretty sad that he's not going to be out doing his CTE antics weekly. But everyone else on his team, very good. Bucker was his biggest disappointment with 4 points. Rashad White with 8. Everyone else with double digits. So Bucks defense was the player of the week with 25 points. This wasn't the only reason why, but that is a 34-point swing between the two defenses, 25 to -9. So tough to overcome that for sure. Goddard looked great, got in the end zone twice. Waddle looked great. Josh Jacobs got in the end zone. Herbert's looked great. Worthy was just fine. So Olave looked good too. So Ben's team, just ESPN did a good job drafting for him at the automatic ADP for a lot of these folks. But yeah, Ben gets the win. 4 3 and 1, sitting in 4th place. Sam drops to 2 and 6, not in last place. Ford has that luxury now, sitting at 2 and 6 and 9th. Matchup 2, Ford gets pumped, absolutely dogged, almost by 50 points here. Najee Nation gets back on track after dropping 2 in a row, 133 to 84. His running backs combined for 17 points apiece with Saquon at 33 and Justice Hill with point 0.2. But, he gets the win. Donald Mooney obviously disappointed with 2.1 points. TJ Hawkinson disappointed with 4 points. Justice Hill with point 0.2. So a lot of disappointing performances here, but he has the boom performance with Saquon with 33. Pittman looked great, 2 fantastic catches, 23 points. Sutton was just okay this week. You thought he'd be better against Dallas, but Troy Franklin was a wide receiver 1 this week for the Denver Broncos. Ka'imi Fairbairn, the guy I tried to get off waivers, but didn't get because Roy put in a claim for him, 15 points. Broncos D was 6. Just, not a very balanced scoring win. A lot of spikes, a lot of lows for Rory, but you're not going to complain with 133 points in a victory for sure. I think that was good for top 5 in scoring this week, and what was not a very balanced scoring. I think he was bottom 5. Not a very balanced week in scoring this week across the league. We had some spikes, we had some lows. Weird week for sure with all the buys. And then Ford's team's bad. You know what? His team's bad. Obviously, he got his win against me when Drake London had 30 points, but Drake London being ruled out like an hour before the game, that's tough for sure. He had to plug in Bill, who only got 2 points against a very stout Kansas City defense, who, honestly, Bill, outside of his game against the Chargers, has been pretty bad most of the year. 5, 4, and 2 in his last 3. Mark Andrews, not very good either. Wan'Dale Robinson disappointed a little bit. He's been very good throughout this year and obviously did not look great this last week against the Birds. T. Higgins, only 2 targets, but one of them was a 45-yard touchdown that he caught. Quinshon is obviously Ford's biggest loss this week, stouted by my amazing Patriots defense, who, again, has not given up 50 yards to a rusher all season. Only 4 points, leaves early with a shoulder injury. That's tough for sure. DeAndre Swift with 15. TJ Stroud looked good with 21. Falcons D was 0. That was pretty surprising. They got rocked by the Dolphins, who that was pretty wild to see. Kirk looked horrible. Dolphins looked good. That was a backwards game. Jake Elliott with 8 points. I think he did miss a field goal. So Ford, after all that talking about Sam and Caleb being a saving grace, being the reason why he's not last, finds himself in last place at 2 and 6. Najee Nation somehow, some way, 6 and 2, second place. Matchup 3, Steele and Chase. Only a 7-point loss here from Chase, and this is Steele's lowest performance, I think, probably of the last few weeks, maybe of the year. He was projected for 165, only scored 131. Chase with 124. On Steele's side of the matchup, Jonathan Taylor saved him. 37 points, 3 touchdowns. He's I just clicked on his profile. Steele has set him as unlikely to trade, which I think makes sense. So I got it. 37 points, 3 touchdowns again. Daniel Jones with 23. That Colts combo is looking lethal for him. He does get Lamar back, so Daniel Jones will be back on the bench. Bijan, who was projected for 26 points, only scored 5 points against probably one of the worst run defenses in the NFL with the Miami Dolphins, but Kirk just looked that bad. They couldn't get anything going. JJ only with 14 on Thursday night. Egbuka disappointed. He had a long touchdown that was broken up. Would have been nice for Steele to get those points. Egbuka obviously tweaked his hamstring a few weeks ago, has been moving a little slower since then, I think. He'll be very happy to have this bye week, hopefully rest up and heal. Jake Ferguson, probably the biggest surprise of the week on National Tight Ends Days, 0 points. He was the tight end 1 on the year. He actually still is the tight end 1, even with his 0 points last week. J.K. Dobbins with 14. Javonte gets the end zone twice. Packers D was just okay. And then Brandon Aubrey was just okay, too. The Cowboys as a whole just got rocked by the Broncos as well. So a weird week across the NFL. On Chase's side, where was he let down? 124 points. Bottom 4 in scoring this week. Jalen was good with 25. Travis Kelce was good with 21. Devontae was good with 14. Derrick Henry got in the end zone twice. And then everyone else was pretty meh. I mean, Pat Steve was good, as I already mentioned. Pinheiro, probably his biggest disappointment for sure. Last 3 weeks, it was 17, 18, 11. 1 point this week. He lost by 7 points. He has a normal game as his standards. Chase comes away with a win here, but that's not what happened here. Debo, obviously fat and horrible. Had that pass bop up in the air. That was horrible. He looked real bad. The Commies as a whole just looked terrible this year. And then Jordan Mason, biggest disappointment of the week for sure, with 1 point on Thursday Night Football against the Chargers, who Chargers looked pretty good. Jordan Mason, obviously his value takes a pretty big hit with Aaron Jones coming back, but Chase didn't have a lot of options. I mean, Kyron was on bye this week, and then Tony Pollard or Nick Chubb would have been the other guys who would have gotten some more points. I actually think if he would have played Nick Chubb, he comes away with a win here. So he might have still lost by .02. But regardless, tough sledding for Chase. Steele, 7-1, lone possession of first place, and Chase drops to 3-5, just out of the playoff picture. Matchup 4. This was the best matchup of the week by far. Derek gets the win, 146.68, 146.28 over Chris. Derek literally left 0 points on the bench, with Marvin Mims getting 1.8 points. He was basically saved because Aaron Jones was activated off the IR, and he was able to pick up Marvin Mims to play, who got the 1.8 points that Derek needed to win this week. Absolutely insane. If you didn't stay up for that game, the only Derek won on the very last play with the Chiefs getting an interception, giving him the 2 points to lead him to victory here. Obviously, fingers crossed for him, no stat correction. But yeah, just a crazy, crazy, crazy victory led by Chris Boswell, 22 points. His special teams and defense combined for 33 points. That's just crazy. Bo Nix, great performance, 23 points. Chase Brown looked great, got in the end zone twice with 25. Scary Terry gets in the end zone, even though he might be injured again. I saw he hurt his quad. George Pickens was fine with 14. Shakir broke off a long touchdown with 20. I talk about Marvin Mims, and he only had 1 point. Everyone in the Broncos getting in on the fun, but the 1 point was enough to propel Derek to victory here. And what was a nail biter? It came down to the last play. Chris, heartbreaking loss, 146 points. Third in scoring, not enough to get it done, or fourth in scoring, not enough to get it done this week. But he got a couple wins that he probably shouldn't have got earlier. So it all balances out. Dak was his biggest disappointment this week, only with 6 points. That's very tough for sure. Dak's been pretty good throughout this whole year. He's the QB8 right now after that bad performance. But Brees with 32, he threw a passing touchdown. Jamar with 21, like 20 targets again. Rome looked good with 18. Diggs got in the end zone for his first Patriots touchdown. Addison looked good, but we'll see how his value shakes out with Carson Wentz being on the IR now. His season's done. But he was targeting Jordan Addison a lot. And then Kittle got in the end zone as well. So he did leave Tucker Kraft on the bench, who had 33 points. So if he plays Tucker Kraft over Kittle, he's winner of the week. But he doesn't. Kittle gets to start over him. Tucker Kraft scores 2 touchdowns on Sunday Night Football. That's tough sledding. And then Tajay Spears getting benched in favor of Ramondre. Obviously, that makes sense at the time. But Ramondre with 5, Tajay with 17. You made one of those 2 different plays. Chris is getting out of here with a victory. But if my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bicycle, and she is not. So Derek gets the win here. 4-4, 6th place in the playoff picture, Derek, and Gilliam drops to 5-2-1 in 3rd place. Matchup 5, me and Caleb, and this was a beatdown for sure. I kind of knew where we were at after the Thursday night game, which went about as bad for me as it possibly could have went, with Lad McConkey scoring 20, Gadsden scoring 18, Dicker scoring 15. So all of Caleb's Chargers players looked great. My Chargers player, QJ, was 0 points and 0 targets. So I knew this matchup was going to be tough to win anyway. Obviously, 43-point loss, not great. But if we're going to get a loss, let's get those points against as well so I can build my narrative about how I'm just unlucky. James Cook, I thought he was going to make it interesting there for a while. 33 points. He looked great. Drake May looked great with 26 points. We closed the gap a little bit, and the 4 o'clock games started. Tez Johnson only with 9. CD with 14, Jalen Warren only with 9 on Sunday Night Football. Troy Franklin started the week. The wide receiver 1 on the week, 26.9 points, got in the end zone twice. A great play from Caleb. Caleb, he managed his team very well this week. I don't know if he left any points on the bench. Obviously, this is with Trevion Henderson in the starting lineup, 5 points. He actually looked decent, 75 yards until he fumbled the ball. But only Ramondre is allowed to fumble, so I'm sure he'll be sent back to the shadow realm. Kyle Pitts looked great with 14 points. I talked about Troy Franklin already. Gadsden, who a bunch of people put in claims for him, looked great on Thursday Night Football. Was targeted early and often. Didn't really need him that much in the second half, but Mahomes looked good on Monday Night Football too, outside of his interceptions. A-Kane looked good. Caleb's team as a whole looked really good. And I guess that's what happens when you get Marvin Harrison Jr. out of the lineup. I guess he's just a cancer bringing down Caleb's team because he's that bad. But you get Marvin Harrison out of the lineup because he's on bye, and Caleb, winner of the week. I don't think those 2 things are unrelated. I'll just say that. But big win for Caleb. He is out of last place. He's actually in first out of the 2-6 teams, he is in first with the point differential, sitting in eighth place, and then I'm 4-4, one of the two 4-4 teams sitting in fifth place. And before we move on to this upcoming week's predictions, let's first hear from our winners and losers of the week. First, winners go first. Caleb started off 0-6, 2-0 in his last two. Obviously, winner of the week comes against me because, of course, absolutely boat raced me. We just heard my in-depth analysis on the matchup, a 43-point dogging. But Caleb, your first video of the year, which is surprising. You had no losers of the week, even though you were 0-6. Let's hear from you, winner of the week. Congratulations.
What's up, everybody? First video of the year for me. I felt super left out up to this point. Totally would have thought that starting the year 0-6 would have queued me up for at least one loser of the week video, but Ford and Derek set that bar so low most of those weeks that I couldn't go down that far. I had a whole skit planned out where I was going to do the video from the treadmill to show you guys that I was training for the double beer mile. But can't do that now because this is a winner of the week video. That's not how those work. Yeah, we had a really good week. I'm sure Levin's going to go over how it all went down in detail, pretty much sum it up by saying everyone was awesome except Trevion. He was awful. So he's relegated to the bench now for sure this time, except for when I have running backs on bye. But otherwise, he is on the bench. He's not cracking the lineup. Lesson learned, finally. Other than that, my record is not good. I feel like my team, not that bad. I feel like we've been trending in the right direction. I feel like we've been really close a few weeks, gotten a few bad breaks. That's just the way it goes. But, we're starting to click a little bit, got a couple wins in a row. And, if things go the right way, I think, maybe we can push forward and contend for the ever prestigious third place trophy.
Very well said, and yes, the ever prestigious third place trophy is definitely still up for grabs. That's the true hardware that we're all searching for. Congratulations, Caleb. Well earned winner of the week, 163 points. On the flip side, about half of those points. Let's hear from our loser of the week. You're very familiar with this face by this point. Ford, what have you to say this week, my friend?
All right. Hello, League. Loser of the week again. It's me and Derek at this point. Don't even look for a video of anyone else. You're gonna see one of us. My team. We had a cute little moment. We scrapped together all of our good juju, all of our good vibes, beat Levin, and now we're back. We got nothing left in the tank. Drake London, the late scratch, just. What are we doing, Falcons? Needed him bad. I mean, I got absolutely boat raced by a guy who doesn't have a second running back. I mean, we're a 10-man league. Why don't you have a running back? But I can't say anything because my team's fucking ass and I had scored 80 points. It's over. Sam's team he's Sam. He's gonna end up winning some games. Caleb's got good vibes. I'm fucked. And unfortunately, I am in the worst shape of my life. Shout out knee surgery. I'm fat and lazy, and all I do is lose fantasy football matchups. So this 2-mile beer run is going to possibly murder me. I've given up on trying to get my boys in the gym, so I'm going to stay rocking PT, going to the gym. There's not much else to say. Talk about my team a little bit, but I would basically just be walking down saying everyone's ass. Jaden's hurt. Now Judkins is hurt. Should have traded him. Bill was a flash in the pan. Yes, I'm pacing around my kitchen right now, by the way. They're bad. Kamara's old and ass. It's just Higgins, one catch. Fuck me. Wandell Robinson is not it. The team's bad. If I get to 3 or 4 wins, I will be pleased. Really wish Caleb would have lost, so I still had hope. I fucking hate fantasy football. If my TikToks from my other league comes across anybody's page, you'll see that it's not been fun. Levin talking about fat Debo while I'm suffering to the commies and suffering in fantasy. Fuck you, Jared. I got to root for a dynasty my whole fucking life, and then it goes away for 2 years, and then you get the reincarnation of fucking Tom Brady and Drake May. Fuck you. God, I'm pissed. God damn it. Okay, I've talked long enough. Bye.
Yes, real tough sledding for Ford this week. Gets, like I said, boat raced by Rory. And you know what? I appreciate you for it. It was a long 2 years, not having a franchise quarterback for the Patriots. But we're back now. Drake May, the GOAT, reincarnation of Tom Brady. Love that guy so much. But that's last week. We're on to this week. Let's get into these matchups, shall we, fellas? Our first matchup, we have Caleb and Sam here, and this is unfortunate for them. They're both sitting at 2-6. This is actually the highest projected total that we have, maybe outside of Steele and Derek's matchup, but that's really just because of Steele. 143 to 144, both sitting top four in scoring this week. Obviously, I don't think they're affected by buys that much this week. It's going to be a good matchup. This is a real good 2-6 matchup, and I do agree with what Caleb said that yes, he is 2-6, but I don't think his team is that bad. If he can get Marvin Harrison Jr. out of his lineup and Trevor Henderson out of his lineup, I think he's in good shape. But let's dig into it, shall we? Mahomes, the QB1 on the year, he's been very good outside of those interceptions, obviously. Gibbs, he gets back off bye going against Minnesota. I'm sure he's going to have a good game this week. A-Kane against Baltimore on Thursday night. Lab McConkey has been great after his very slow start to the year, sitting at the wide receiver 15. He scored 14, 23, 15, and 20 over his last four. MHA is horrible. I don't know why Caleb keeps starting him. DJ Moore as well is not very good. So, we're pumped about Caleb's team a little bit. We dig a little bit further into it. We see maybe why he doesn't have the best record. And I say that as someone who just got boat raced by him last week, but he didn't start Marvin Harrison Jr. last week, so I don't think that's not correlated. Texans defense has been great this year, and then Dicker, the kicker, has been very solid as well. Sam comes in at about a 1-point favorite. Right now, he has Jordan Love in, although I would not be surprised if he subs in Jackson Dart, who is projected for about 3 more points than Love. CMC projected for 26 points this week. That's a lot of points, my friends. Rico Dowdle in, getting the start over Tyrone Tracy right now. Again, Sam to be projected for even more if he wanted to. He's leaving projected points on the bench. We all know those aren't really good for anything. He's also leaving Juwan Jennings on the bench in favor of Bam Knight, who Rory is obviously trying to get very desperately because he needs a running back too, more than he needs air. He does potentially get Brock Bowers, not potentially. He does get Brock Bowers back this week. He was a full participant in practice. Hopefully he is back to his form that he was like last year. Rashee Rice obviously is awesome when he's on the field. Devontae Adams and Tet rounding out the team. Lions D, I think, is a great play this week, too. They'll get home. They just extended Aiden Hutchinson. He'll get a sack for sure. I'm thinking maybe an interception to go along with it, with how bad Minnesota's QB room is in shape right now. Apologies to Steele. And then Michael Badgley, the second Colts kicker that Sam's owned this year after Schrader went down. Tough matchup to predict. You really want both these teams to get a win. You want them to put a little distance between Ford, who is now in last place after all that chirping saying that these two guys were saving them. Unfortunately, I don't think we're getting another tie. I do think Sam is going to take this one. I can't justify picking someone who has Marvin Harrison Jr. and DJ Moore in his starting lineup in the Big 2025 in Week 9. So I do think Sam takes this one. Matchup 2, and we are at the point now where we're having some repeat matchups. Not everyone's played each other, but people are going to have started some repeats, and this is one of them. Chris and Ben, who did square off in Week 1 where they tied. So I don't think they're going to tie again. Would be absolutely crazy if they did. But Ben comes in at about an 8-point favorite here. I will say Chris's team is looking exceptionally banged up. Bucky on bye, AJ Brown on bye and injured. Both those guys on bye and also injured. Brees Hall on bye this week. Pacheco's not going to play this week. Ramondre didn't practice today. Roma Dunze didn't practice today. Diggs is going to be fine. He'll play. I bet Odunze ends up playing. It was a heel injury, which is new, but I think, Dude's day, he's their best pass catcher. They're going to rest him if he's not 100%. He's going with the double tight end, which I think is the correct move with Tucker Kraft and George Kittle. He's leaving Jordan Addison on the bench for the time being. This is another guy who's really, really hurting at running back. And I say that, Chris, if you're interested in one of my many running backs that I have, let me know. But yeah, a dual threat of Ramondre Stevenson and Tajay Spears does not exactly inflict terror into your opponent, I'll say. He's going with Dak Prescott as his QB. I thought he had a bunch of QBs earlier this year, but I guess I'm imagining that. And then the Seahawks defense going up against the Commies on Monday Night Football. No, Sunday Night Football without Jaden or with Jaden. I apologize, fella. I've been talking for a while. I did my other video before this. I already had a white monster. I'm on beast mode right now. Chris also does not have a kicker in. Chase McLaughlin is what I was looking at. So he's got to figure that out. So I don't know if he has someone in his IR slot at this juncture, but he will have to pick up a kicker, and that's something he's just going to have to do, or he's probably not going to win. On Ben's side of the matchup, his tight end room is hurting for sure with Goddard on bye this week. He's going with Juwan Johnson. Scadaboo, he has not dropped yet. He's going to keep him, on the team for morale, I guess, even though he's done for the year. His foot was facing the wrong way. Chuba does hit the bench. And then Xavier Worthy staying on the bench as well, and Romeo Dubes on the bench. So this is another guy who hasn't fully set his lineup yet. Neither of these guys have. Chris with no kicker. Ben hasn't put a defense in yet. So it's hard for me to really give a good gauge on this. They've kind of set their lineups. Like Ben obviously subbed in Juwan Johnson, but hasn't picked up a defense, which I think is interesting. But maybe he hasn't checked since he put his waiver claims in and he didn't get the guy that he wanted. That's what I'm going to think. And then Chris, I don't know. I don't have anything for the kicker for that one. Chris' team is banged up. I said it at the beginning when I started talking about this matchup. He's real banged up. He's in real trouble if Ramondre doesn't play this week. I think Ben's going to take this one. It's just, he's got more guys available and got more guys healthy. So I think Benny D comes away with a win here. Matchup 3, and it's Steele versus Derek. These two teams did play already in Week 5, where Steele won by a score of 201 to 122. It was an 80-point victory. And Steele comes in at a 42-point favorite this week as well. So, Steele, as we talk about every week, is the favorite for the league right now. It's his league to lose. It's going to take a miracle for someone to knock off his God squad that he's assembled through trades and just a good draft, in all honesty. Getting Jonathan Taylor at 17th overall, yeah, that'll do it for sure, especially when you get JJ and JSN to couple that, and Javonte in one of the later rounds. So just a real good draft, traded for Bijan. It's going to be hard to beat this team for sure. Chase obviously had a shot last week, was not able to get it done. Little check mark, little box next to all the positions. The only positional advantage that Derek has this week is his tight end. Laporta is favored for a little more points than Jake Ferguson, 11.8 to 11.4. It looks like Derek has actually set his lineup, so thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, came in, caught a touchdown, re-injured himself, and now he's out again. So, he's not the first player who has held out throughout the summer and then tried to go full speed, realized they weren't in game shape, and got hurt. He certainly won't be the last, but yes. For Commies fans, it's been a year from hell. I do not envy you guys. That is a bummer. It feels like last year may have just been a mirage with how bad this year is shaping out to be. Chase Brown news. Joe Flacco did not practice today with an AC sprain. If he does not play this week, that is a huge hit for all of the Bengals pass catchers, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins especially. You guys know I'm going to pick Steele here. These guys have earned me to talk about their teams and their matchups just for being valued league members throughout the year. So that's what I'm doing. I'm talking about the matchups. It's going to be Steele. He's a 42-point favorite. It would take a miracle. Would love to see it, but it would take a miracle for Derek to get a win here. Matchup 4, we got Chase and Ford. Chase comes in at about a 5-point favorite. Ford is actually projected for 131 points, which I think is the most he's projected for in a minute. These two teams have played previously. They played in Week 1. Chase won 131 to 122. That was before Ford's team really caught on fire and went down the pooper. Ford going with Darnold over Jaden Daniels, it looks like right now. These two teams, Seahawks and Commies, they are playing each other. I think Jaden will be back this week. I will be a little surprised if Ford benches Jaden, but the Seahawks defense is much better than the Commanders defense, who have been very bad all year. Drake London not playing last week. That was a big bummer. Kamara has been very bad, honestly, this whole year. The Rams defense is a good play. Tyler Loop, the second week in a row, someone snagged the kicker I put a claim in for, which is just absolutely wild to me. Mark Andrews on Thursday Night Football, and then Wandale, T. Higgins, and Vidal. DeAndre Swift as well, who didn't practice today, but I'm sure he will play. He's sitting at the RB11 on the year. He's been surprisingly very good this whole season. Vidal's been a great pickup as well. I know Haskins was the other guy people were clamoring for, but Vidal ended up being the guy. Good for Ford. Yeah, and I already mentioned this, but T. Higgins probably takes the biggest hit if Flacco can't go, and it's the Jake Browning show. So if he can't go, I would assume that Woody Marks is going to get the start for him. I don't think he's going to go to Bill again. I think that was a hallucination. I don't think Bill is real. He's been very mid throughout this whole year. On Chase's side of the matchup, Jalen's on bye. That's definitely tough for him. For sure. He's got Jalen and Devontae on bye this week, but that's the big ones. Outside of that, obviously, Debo gets a little bit of a boost with Scary Terry being back on the bench, being injured, but he's so fat. So I mean, what can you do about a guy who's that large, right? Nico Collins, he will get back this week after he missed last week with concussion protocol. Derrick Henry against Miami. Obviously, we all thought Bijan was going to run all over the Miami defense last week. Didn't happen. You got to hope for more from Derrick Henry. He gets Kyron back from bye. He gets the washed-up Kelsey, who's been the tight end 5, surprisingly good. He's got washed-up Keenan Allen, who's been good against the Titans this year. Jags defense against Vegas is a good play, and he's rolling with Eddie Pinheiro still, who's been very solid outside of last week, as I mentioned already earlier in this video. I don't think I've picked Chase to win in weeks. No, I picked him to beat Rory, and I was right about that. I will say most weeks I don't find myself picking Chase, but we're going to pick him to win this week. I know he got the win earlier. I think he gets the season sweep on Ford, and I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna win. I think Derek's gonna lose. He's gonna be right back in the mix of things when it comes to the playoff seeding, and he's got to at least have a shot for that third place title. Our last matchup, me and Rory. I come in at about a 17-point favorite here this week. And Rory's been ducking me. I invited him to play basketball with me this morning. I say, hey man, our men's league team's about to start again. It's been a while. Would love to see you. He told me to pound sand. He said it's rivalry week. I don't want to see you. We have played each other earlier. Rory beat me in week 5, 130 to 116. Rory is without Saquon this week, so not only does he not have an RB2, he doesn't have an RB1. He's going with the Justice Hill, Jeremy McNichols, very lethal dual threat. I think you guys all know that I believe Rory is a Puka merchant. Puka is really his only good player. Actually, that's not new. Pittman's been very good, and Cortland Sutton's been solid too. We'll see about Hawk. Very, very up and down. Zay Flowers, little concerned about that on Thursday against Lamar back. Miami's defense isn't great. Broncos D against Houston, that's a good matchup. So he's going Broncos defense, Houston kicker. So they're playing each other. That's an interesting little matchup within Rory's lineup. And then Josh Allen, who, I talked about this in my other league. Being drafted in the second round, first QB, he hasn't really provided that value for you. He's the QB7. I know he's had his bye week, but if you're getting a QB that early, a full round before anyone else, like Jalen or Lamar, and then another 3 or 4 rounds before the other QBs, that's not great value for where you got him. And I think Rory knows that deep down, but he would never say it out loud. So on my side of the matchup, we're looking pretty balanced, I'd say. We have a lot of teams that are very top heavy. They have 1 or 2 guys that are just the guys. I think my team we got a bunch of dudes. And outside of that, assuming Josh Downs plays, because he didn't practice today with a hip injury, which I think is new. He was concussed earlier. Now he's got a hip injury. We got a Josh Downs revenge game on our hands because Rory, the captain of Najee Nation, gave up on him, dropped him on September 21st, not even a month after he drafted him. So gave up on the kid. I said, Josh Downs, get on over here. I believe in you, buddy. And he looked great for me last week, so I hope he's healthy and can crack the starting lineup this week. I got him in right now over Quentin Johnson. We'll see, though. If he can't go, the next guy up will be ready. I'm going with my 2 tight ends as I normally do. I got Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, love those guys. Dave Montgomery, I think he gets in the end zone this week against the Vikings. The run defense isn't great. Jaylen Warren, so solid. And again, Rory, I'd like to thank you for drafting Caleb Johnson 2 picks before Jaylen Warren, because Jaylen Warren really has been a lifesaver for me. He's been a solid guy. He's going to get me 14 points, and he's going to do it. He's going to be gritty. And that's just the Steeler way. That's what a guy like Najee Nation could use, but unfortunately you gambled on the rookie, and you went for the flash instead of the steady. But not a guy like me. A guy like me would always take a guy that is consistent, proven, hardworking. And then Drake May obviously is the MVP in my eyes, and should be in everyone's eyes. So you guys know what I'm going to say. We can't be losing to a Justice Hill, Jeremy McNichols double combo. I think Puka's going to have 35. I think Pittman's going to have 20. I think Cortland Sutton's going to have 20. We're going to need to put up 135 points if we want to get the win here. I think we can do it. I think it's in the cards for us. I think the Chargers D gets a pick 6. I think Jason Myers, our kicker that we obviously wanted first and foremost, I think he gets it done for me. But I think CD is going to be great. we're excited for this week. We've had this matchup circled after the week 5 bewilderment, and we're ready to go. And Rory's going to be sad that he's been ducking me at pickup in the morning. So I think we're going to get the win. And that about wraps me for the week. So, fellas, as always, it's a pleasure talking to the Void and you guys watching and texting and chatting about the video. I love it when I see those texts fly in. But appreciate y'all in general. Appreciate the chat when it's lively. Go Pats. Good luck to everyone this week.